Hi, this is Yvette Francino from SearchSoftwareQuality.com here with Ellen Gottesdiener, and we are talking about requirements and the difference between agile requirements and requirements in an agile environment versus a traditional environment and the elicitation process. So tell us a little bit about that, Ellen.
Yeah, in particular, Yvette, one of the things that people are very curious about is requirements management in agile as opposed to in traditional. So when you talk about requirements management, there's really three things. There's baselining the requirements, tracing the requirements, and managing change or change control. So in traditional requirements, baselining is basically capturing and storing a lot of requirements information and attributes about them and tracing them through the life cycle. Now in Agile, what we do is that baseline is called a backlog, which mostly has requirements in it, and our goal is to keep it a very lean backlog, so we don't have to have all the requirements because we really don't know everything in its entirety and we don't need to have all the details. The other thing about that backlog is that it really is going to be the basis for planning. So the items in the backlog, we like to think of them from 3 points of view from planning horizons: big view, preview, and now view. So you'll have more information about the now view because that's the immediate iteration or the work you're working on now. The preview is usually at the release level, and the big view might be things you might not even build for a couple of months. But the key is to keep that backlog really lean. Then there's tracing, forward and backward. In the traditional world, you forward trace, you take a item in the backlog or baseline, and you trace all the tests forward to verify that you built it the way you said, or backward tracing to validate that you built the right thing. So in the Agile world, one of the things that we want to do is start to think about the tests or how we would accept a requirement before we actually build it. So one of the beautiful things we can do is we can use thinking of tests or acceptance tests and examples as a way to both validate and elicit up front. And you know, there really is a lot of similarities in the fact that you can trace and do need to trace your requirements forward in the Agile world. So that really does make Agile a very valid candidate for regulated industries. Then we get into change control. And in the traditional world, change control is managed. Change is managed by having usually a change control board. In the Agile world, what we do is we manage the change by inviting change. So we don't want to prevent change, and as the business changes, the customer can not interrupt the work, but get that change into the next release or the next iteration. So in that way, change can happen, and we don't have to have the infrastructure that usually happens with a more heavyweight change control board. So because things are changing all the time and we want to prepare the requirements, this is a really big point for Agile teams, is to prepare the requirements before you pull them from the backlog into planning. And that preparation work is really key, and that's going to be the topic, that is the topic of the book Mary Gorman and I are writing right now.
Do you have a title for that book?
Oh, we have some working titles, but it's about Agile product requirements, really. So I don't want to throw out too many titles and get ourselves cornered in.
Okay. You've already written a couple of books, all right?
Yes. I've written 2 books. The first book that I wrote is called Requirements by Collaboration. And this book basically came out around the time as the Agile Manifesto. In 2002, the book came out, and it's about how we build a community to collaborate around figuring out what it is we're going to build. And a lot of these practices using facilitated workshops and collaborative techniques are used all the time on Agile projects. The second book that I wrote is called The Software Requirements Memory Jogger, and it's kind of everything you always wanted to know about requirements but were afraid to ask. And it explains the requirements development and requirements management process in a compact package, so to speak.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Ellen.
Thank you.